Hope everybody's doing good. This is Josiah Igono with the All Things Performance podcast. And today what I wanted to do is I wanted to talk about creating a high-performing environment, right? How does a coach, how does an athlete, how does a captain of a team create a high-performance environment? Well, one of the things that I'm going to say is that, we've all heard that saying before, right? The fish thinks from the head, right? The attitude of the host determines the taste of the roast, right? We've heard all these cliches before. It's from the top down, right? And one of the things that I will say to all of those cliches is that there is truth behind all of it. There's truth behind all of those things. This podcast specifically, and I've already mentioned these groups earlier, this podcast episode specifically, I'm targeting parents, coaches, captains of teams, because you all have this, you are all what I call architects of the athletic experience, especially parents and coaches. You guys are the architects of athletic experience. We can actually push this further, when you start talking about athletic directors and general managers that oversee the whole thing. But I'm talking about the boots on the ground, everyday people who are impacting athletic performance. And I'm going to talk today about how to create a high performing environment. One of the things that I did a couple weeks ago is actually on social media. I put a question up on social media for everybody, and for for those that follow me. And the question that I asked everyone was, I said, hey, would you rather? And I will say this: I asked this question specifically to the males, to the fellas. And I did it on purpose. I'm probably going to run it back and ask the ladies. And if you're a woman listening to this, I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments of this video or of this podcast, wherever you may be watching, because I would love to hear your response. But I asked the guys, I said, would you rather have people scared of you or safe around you in a high performance environment? Right? That's the question that I asked. And 27% of the fellas said that they would rather have people scared of them. And conversely, 73% said, I would rather have my people safe around me. Right? This is very interesting because some of the people who responded were people who've played at the highest level. They've competed and coached at the highest level. They are fathers. They are alpha males. They are big dogs. They are respected in their trade craft. And so it's interesting when you hear the responses, right? What do you guys think about that? 73% said, I'd rather have people safe around me in a high performing environment. This is an amazing thing to think about, because many of you have had coaches, you've had, captains who they wanted to instill fear, right? They wanted to instill fear when it came to performance. There have been even stories, I've shared this in the past with athletes, there have been even stories of national teams getting calls on the red telephone from their prime minister, from their president, talking about, you better score a couple more goals or else. And those guys came back and they scored a couple of more goals and they won. You know what I'm saying? Like that's what I'm talking about. Would you rather have people scared of you or safe around you? It's interesting because one of my mentors a long time ago, he told me something that I'll never forget. He said, Josiah, it doesn't matter if it's times of peril, times of plenty. People always run toward two things. They always run toward safety and they always run toward love. Whether that safety is psychological or whether that safety is physical, people will always run toward those two things, psychological or physical safety and love. Regardless of the environment, which I just think is very interesting. Today, one of the things I want to do is I want to share with you, I'm not going to share all of them, but I'm going to share a couple of bullet points that I created when I was working within an organization, high-performing organization myself. And these are ways where a coach, or as I mentioned earlier, an architect of the athletic experience can really foster toughness and high performance and create a great environment for their players. So I'm going to read a couple of these. And as I'm reading them, I want you to ask yourself, do I do this? Am I engaged in this behavior? Have I ever thought about doing this? Have I tried to do it and it got shut down? Because what I'm sharing with you here, we see this in the literature, we see this in the research as far as effective ways of creating a high performance environment, effective ways of creating mental toughness and fortitude within an athletic space. And so one of the things that I wrote here was that, you know, the coaches, they have to create, if you're a coach, a captain, a parent, you have to create a non-hostile environment. Entering into an environment that is physically, emotionally, and mentally healthy frees an athlete to perform at higher levels. Is your environment non-hostile? Right? I'm not gonna talk too much about hazing, because I believe that there's a time and place to initiate people, and it should be fun, it should be healthy. But a lot of hazing, if you look at hazing, and this is not specifically about hazing when you start talking about a non-hostile environment, but a lot of hazing recently, man, it's like it degrades people. You know, it actually does the opposite effect, right? And it just permeates down generations and classes down to where it just creates it doesn't create a good environment. So is your environment, is it healthy? Is it non-hostile? Do people come there and say, man, I actually look forward to going to my athletic environment because it frees me up from the rigors of life? Or are you creating more stress when people walk through those doors? Another one I put here is promote mastery. Right? So you want to create an environment that's promoting mastery. You want to create an environment that is rewarding people for, developments and achievements in their trade craft. Right? We are highlighting the banners. We are highlighting the positive things that we've done. We are highlighting our achievements. As mastery improves, esteem and a sense of achievement is realized. Greatness is rooted in simplicity. You gotta be a master of your craft. When you start talking about a high performance environment, that's what we want to do. Performance is the execution of a task or function. We want to highlight and promote mastery. As a coach, as a parent, as a captain, I want to make my players feel respected. That's the third thing. I want to make my players feel respected. Now, women are a little bit different because women, they tend to, what's the word I'm looking for? There's a book called Love and Respect, right? And it goes back between the two sexes in terms of males and females. And males, they need and crave respect, and women need and crave love, right? And when you're talking about an athletic environment, especially when you're talking about males, dude, you gotta make your people feel respected. It doesn't matter if they're the worst player on the team, right? There's this thing of respect. Respect is a different language. It's different. When one is treated with respect, they answer the call and then some. They answer the call and then some. One of the things that I do with players is, man, when I see a player in the morning, or when I see him or her, man, I am excited. I show visible excitement when I see them. ¿Qué onda, locochón? What's up, brother? ¿Qué onda, matatán? Dime, monstruo. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm showing you that I see you and that I respect you. So when you're doing these things, you are creating, whether you know it or not, whether you like it or not, you are creating a high performance environment. The next thing is I need to make my players feel cared for. I need to make my players feel cared for. We've all heard the old adage, right? No one cares how much you know until they know how much you care. And again, people always run toward what? Psychological love and safety. Listening to and caring for the needs of an individual will in turn allow that individual to align and contribute to the benefit of the team. Once you meet that need of, hey, I see you, I understand what you're going through, I understand what's going on at home, I understand what's going on in your personal life, I understand what you're feeling on the field, and I address that as a coach, as a parent, as a captain, guess what? I'm going to now want to contribute back. I'm going to want to make the situation better for my teammates and my situation. It's this law of reciprocity, right? People always feel compelled to give when they've been given something already. And so one of the things that you can do as a coach, as a parent, as a player, as a captain on your team is you got to make sure that your people are taken care of, man. And if you don't know, ask, hey, how are you doing today? No, how are you doing? Right? Because when you do that, now you change the game up. Next area, encourage input from my players. Encourage input from my teammates. See, many great coaches, many good coaches, many average coaches, and fill in the blank, captains and on down the line, they have this thing where, man, they think that they have all the answers. And it doesn't matter how good you are. It doesn't matter what your success rate is. It doesn't matter how many wins or how many awards that you've procured. At the end of the day, you have to encourage input from your players. I had a conversation years ago with a 25-year U.S. Navy SEAL Master Chief. And he told me something I'll never forget. He said, Josiah, when leadership comes in, he said, it's one thing for leadership to come in and say, all right, you guys got to do this, and everybody's going to listen to you. You like if you're the chief and you come in and you say, hey, this is what we're really doing. If you're the parent, if you're the captain, you be like, nah, we doing it like this, right? Everybody's going to listen to you. You're going to have very little pushback sometimes. But something amazing happens when you encourage input from your players, because now what happens is this wall, this buy-in, right? This camaraderie, this cohesion now that we all have now, because these other players have inputted things, because everybody else has had a say in the construction of this thing that we're building, of this culture that we're building, they have more of a reason to adhere to it. I wrote here, encouraging input requires giving, and giving is usually intentional. Add this up and you have an athlete who is invested because his efforts or her efforts have contributed to team success. You have to encourage input from those who are following you. Hey, what do you think we should do post-game? Hey, what are your thoughts on what happened yesterday? What should we do going forward? Now, this is not all the time, right? Because you can't just let everybody in anything have a say all the time, because you would get nowhere if you don't have leadership. But it is very important that you include the people, include your people when it comes to input, because this helps to fortify and create healthy environments. The last two areas that I wanted to hit on are this. You need to challenge your players. No man ever rises to low expectations. No woman will ever rise to low expectations. You know what happens when you put low expectations down for people? They step over them. But when you create a high bar of performance, a high bar of standards, a high bar of excellence, you know what people do? They start playing outside themselves. They start reaching. They start performing higher. And that's what you have to do. You have to challenge your players. No man ever rises to low expectations. Challenge promotes growth, improvement, and new levels of success. That's what we want. The last one here that I wanted to share with you guys, again, we're talking about how do you create a high-performing environment as a player, or for your players. If you are a parent, a coach, or a captain, how do you do that? One of the last areas here is be competent and confident in my craft. If you are a leader, you got to be good at what you do, period, full stop. And even if you're not as technically, and I'm not talking about just skills. That's part of the puzzle. I'm not just talking about, oh, you have to be the best player. Because a lot of times, sometimes the leaders aren't even the best players. I'm not talking about that. But if you're a leader, you're leading for a reason. There's something about you. There's something that you do. There's something that you contribute that is at the highest level, and the team needs what you have. And so in order for you to create a high performing environment, you as a coach, you as a parent, you as a player, a captain, okay, you have to be competent and confident in your trade craft. Confidence in oneself strengthens the confidence in others. Did you know that research shows us that if you are confident in yourself, not only are your teammates going to have higher confidence in you, but your coaches are going to have higher confidence in you. This stuff is contagious, man. It's contagious. And so we go back, I just listed up several areas of how to create a high performing environment. And if we go back to the, that initial question that I asked everybody, would you rather have people safe around you, or would you rather have people scared? How would you answer that question now? How would you answer it? Because at the end of the day, when I look at the research, I'm like, yo, creating an atmosphere of love and safety, that's causing people to perform at high levels. That doesn't mean I can't challenge. That doesn't mean I can't be hard on a player. That doesn't mean that I have to agree with everything that goes on, right? That doesn't mean that the rookies, can't be initiated and have some fun, and we can, say, hey, welcome to the club, welcome to the team. It doesn't mean we can't do that. But we have to put our thinking cap on and say, man, how many of these areas are we really addressing? How many of these areas are we really paying attention to? Are we really being intentional about as it relates to our team culture? Culture is a term that's used a lot in sports. We hear culture this, culture that. We hear it all the time. And as the old author once said, she said that culture does not make people. People make culture. And you as a coach, you as a parent, you as a captain, what are you doing personally? What are you doing internally that is causing you to become a better version of yourself so that it qualifies you to be an excellent leader of men, an excellent leader of women, an excellent leader on your team, in your organization, in your community? Culture does not make people. People make culture. And if you want to create a high-performing environment, these areas, I challenge you to go back and listen to them again, review them, and ask yourself, am I doing this stuff? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. This is Josiah Igono with the All Things Performance Podcast, and we'll talk to you soon.